everyone, and welcome to another edition of Speak Out Loud, the story behind unique and interesting show today, because I don't have a guest. Right, I don't have a guest, and that was on purpose. I don't have a guest because I am the guest today. That's right. So, this is called Speak Out Loud, the story behind a brand. And today, you're going to learn the story behind my brand and the story behind why I wrote a book. I wrote a book back in 2011, and it's called Hollow, When Everything That Means Anything Is Taken Away. And I'm going to be reading the introduction of that book and also talking with you guys about feelings of being empty. So when I wrote this book, I had gone through some very difficult times in my life. And I'll let you in on a little secret. Hollow is actually my journal. That's right. I journaled through the process that I was going through, some very difficult times, which I'll share with you, and give you really like a high level walkthrough of what I went through. And so I wrote through it. That was the only thing that gave me some sort of sense of peace. And then when I came through the things that I came through, I actually found my journals, picked up my journals, and I started reading what I had written. But I decided to start teaching myself some things. So I started writing in my journal some of the lessons that I've learned from the time period. And so that's how this book came about. So again, I am my own host today, and I really felt led to share this today simply because it is Mental Health Awareness Month. Right. And I really wanted to, I just really wanted to share with you to let you guys kind of give you a little bit of a peek into my life and the fact that I am an author, but what I wrote about. I was very scared to write this book because I felt like it was going to expose a few things about me that, of course, we don't want nobody to know. We don't want anybody to know about us. So, but anyway, we're going to get started with the show. So sit back, relax. I want you to just get your listening ears on. And anybody who you feel may be a little empty today, I hope and pray that this show can fill them with what filled me, which is the love of God. Let's go.
You're watching Speak Out Loud, the story behind the brand.
About that. See how modest she is, y'all? But let's go. So roasted crickets, I'm like, not eating that.
Yeah.
Consistency.
Every day showing up, even when you don't feel like it.
And now your host, Lynette Jackson.
That's right. I am your host, and I am the guest for today. Isn't that awesome? So I am just excited to be able to share this part of my life. I feel like, again, this show highlights and it shares and shows and talks to people from all walks of life. Ministry leaders, entrepreneurs, business leaders, and it tells the story behind their brand. But I'm like, hey, wait a minute. You should tell the story behind your brand and just really help people know and understand that today you can make it. So if you have feelings of being empty inside, lowest self-esteem, this is today for you because I'm going to share with you my story. But before we get started, I want to thank my sponsor for this show. Telehelp 24/7 is a sponsor. They've been sponsoring Speak Out Loud all month. And I have a little something I want to show you.
Hi, my name is Lisa. And because of what was going on inside of my head, I lost my smile a long time ago. Millions of individuals are affected by mental illness each year, yet it's not always easy to talk about. Many people don't know where to begin when seeking help for mental health issues, which is why I logged on to telehelp247.org and began speaking with a therapist who assisted me in settling the things in my head and restoring my smile. Log on to telehelp247.org and get your smile back. Telehelp 24/7. Culturally competent mental health care. Meeting you where you are.
All right, so we want to thank Telehelp 24/7 for sponsoring us this month. It's an amazing organization, and they have culturally competent mental health care professionals that will meet you where you are. And so it's interesting. It's really good to be able to sit across, the table and look at someone who looks like you, who can understand your culture, that can understand who you are, and can help you get some help. And so I'm excited to be partnering with Telehelp 24/7. So just go out to telehelp247.org and you can schedule an appointment if you're feeling like you just can't make it and you need to talk to someone. Log on to telehelp247.org. All right, so let's get started. I want to introduce to some people who may know me and some who may not know me. My name is Lynette Jackson, and I am the owner of Roar Media Group. Roar is a digital marketing company that helps its clients speak out loud in the marketplace with graphics, web development, videos, voiceovers, and strategic plans. We started this company because there was a need to provide quality graphics, voiceovers, graphics, websites at affordable prices. I do it for small businesses, I do it for churches, and I definitely do it for ministries, and I would love to do it for you. So if you have a need that requires our services, graphics, web development, voiceovers, videos, strategic plans. If you are a church or a ministry that really needs to have some strategic planning done, we are the company for you. Just log on to roarmediagroup.com and schedule your free consultation. All right, now we've got the commercials done, we've got everything done. And so now we're going to talk about what we're going to talk about today: feeling of emptiness and feeling hollow inside. So, as I mentioned to you guys, back in 2011, I wrote a book called Hollow. Let me just make sure I get that there. Hollow, when everything that means anything is taken away. And Hollow chronicles 18 months of my life where I went through some tragedy. And I'll share the tragedy that I went through. My mother she had congestive heart failure, and the doctors told me basically to take her home and prepare for her end of life. And Mom said to me, hey, listen, I don't want to be put in a hospital and I don't want to die in a hospital. Can I come to your house and can I die at your house? And that's a big that's a big ask for someone. Hey, can I come and die in your home? But she's my mother. I loved her. She was my best friend. I'd do anything in the world for her. And so I took care of my mother. My mother lived with me for 30 days before. Well, she lived with me for a few months, but in the last 30 days of her life, I actually discovered who I was during the last 30 days of her life and the strength that I had. But it wasn't going to come with just, oh, here's who you are. It was going to come with some pain and some tragedy. My mother did pass away, but she also was a super planner. And that's where I kind of get my skills from for graphics and planning, because my mom was a great planner. And my mom planned her funeral. And so she would have me pick out her coffin. She'd say, baby girl, it's time to write my obituary. This is what I want to wear. And so each one of these little events began to just pull and pick away from my life. Mom did pass in 2005. And the next year, I took a job with a huge, huge ministry. And I was fired in 4 months because I discovered something that I probably shouldn't have seen. And when I brought it to the head pastor, they said, yeah, it's either we're going to draw her in or push her out. And yeah, she's got to go. And then after that, my nephew was diagnosed with cirrhosis of the liver at 36, and he passed away. And then 2 months after that, I removed a mentally ill sister. She was had paranoid schizophrenia. She was diagnosed, and she was living in an institution in Pennsylvania. I removed her from life support. Now, this all happened in 18 months. And as a result, I became super, super depressed. I suffered from anxiety, and I had thoughts of suicide a few times. And so I wrote through the process. I wrote in my journal. I just journaled my feelings. That was one of the things that helped me get through the process. It wasn't easy. But when I got myself together, I started writing lessons learned after I found my journal and went back through it. And I decided to publish my journal. And the publishing of my journal turned into this book. I take my hand off of it, called Hollow, When Everything That Means Anything Is Taken Away. And so today, what I want to do is I want to read the introduction for you. And then I just want to discuss it a little bit, because I know that I was not, and I am not the only person out here listening to me today, or even in this world, that had the same feelings, the same thoughts that I did in this book. I just began in 2011 to talk about it. I remember when my editor was writing with me, and she said to me, "You're not telling me the truth. You're not telling me everything. You're leaving some things out." And she said, "You're either going to tell this story or you're not going to tell this story." And so I actually had to go and pray and say, "God, okay, I feel you've put this book in my heart. You told me to write this book. I will write this book on one occasion if it changes one person's life." And so I was like, yeah, don't ever, don't tempt God like that, right? Because he will show you who he is, right? So I said, "Hey, God, I'll write this book if one person, like, I don't need to be on the bestsellers, New York Times bestsellers. That would have been nice, but I don't need to be there. If one person reads this book and their life is changed, then I did my job, and I will go ahead and I'll write the book." And I felt God said to me, "Okay, great, Lynette, write the book, because it's going to change you." And so I was like, wait, nope. It's going to change you. You said one person, and you're the person that it's going to change. And this book did. It changed my life. As I was penning it and writing it and going through it, I had to look beyond the surface of what I was going to identify the things that brought me there. And that was tough. I had to look in some very dark, dark places of my life. I had to really look in the mirror, and I saw some things that I was very, very afraid of. I had to come face to face with some dark thoughts. I had to come face to face with depression. I had to come face to face with anxiety. I had to come face to face with thoughts of suicide. And so I just want to read some of I'm going to read the introduction to you, and then I'm going to read some of the praise that came from the book, because I believe those things will minister to you as well. And then we're just going to break it down, and we're going to talk about some things. Again, if you're out there, you're listening, I'm not out here trying to sell a book, because the book has been selling for a long time. What I'm out here trying to do today, and I felt like I was supposed to be my own guest today to tell you the story behind my brand, is that I really want to help somebody who has feelings of being empty, feelings of suicide, feelings and thoughts, dark thoughts. I want to share those with you. Plus, I don't want you to fill yourself or try to fill yourself with all the wrong things. And that's what I did. So again, I'm reading the introduction of Hollow, when everything that means anything is taken away. Now, the book starts off with the introduction, and it's called The Chocolate Easter Bunny. Each year as a child, I received a plastic Easter basket filled with goodies from my parents. In the center of that basket was always the biggest and most beautiful chocolate Easter bunny I'd ever seen. This wonderful, tasty treat was the highlight of each Easter, even more so than the dresses and the eggs and the holiday festivities. However, the one thing that always bothered me about the Easter bunny was the fact that it was hollow. I am the youngest of 7 children, 6 girls and 1 boy. My father was a truck driver and my mother was a homemaker. Limited to one income and many mouths to feed, sweets and candy were a luxury that we were only afforded on Easter and Christmas. On Easter, we were always assured to receiving that wonderful basket filled with delicious goodies. Despite my love for the delicious chocolate bunny, I recall feeling cheated because the center was hollow. And if you weren't careful, the entire thing would crumble in your hands. Each year, I would savor this treat. And so I would carefully and strategically eat the ears, then the tail, and finally the feet. But once I got to the center, the core, it would crumble. At that time, I would lose interest in my chocolate bunny because it had lost its beauty and it no longer appealed to my appetite. Like my beloved bunny a few years ago, I recognized that I too had a hollow core. My beauty crumbled and I lost my appetite for life. As a result of a series of life-altering circumstances, anger, denial, and depression consumed my core, leaving me with a hollow soul. I dealt with, or rather didn't deal with, my emotions with the help of food, alcohol, prescription painkillers. During this period in my life, I cried often and felt a deep sadness for loved ones who had left me. My refusal to deal with the tragedies in my life sent me on a downward spiral. Through it all, I realized I had neglected and abused the person who should have meant the most to me in my life, me. I believe my hollowing began with divorce, deepened as I began dating, reached depths with the death of my mother, nephew, and sister. And if that weren't enough, I lost my job and was betrayed by the church, all within a few short years. With each event, I felt like someone was eating pieces of my life, like that chocolate Easter bunny, until they got to the center, the core, the very essence of my being. And when I crumbled, they lost interest, leaving me abandoned, unloved, used, and abused. As I write this book, or when I wrote this book, I'll say that, I was 50 years old, single, and a mother of 2 sons. Walter, he was 30 at that time, married with his own son, and Ronald at that time was a junior in college. It took me a while to realize that I'd raised them from behind a mask. I was the master at the masquerade. You see, I was always putting on the smile, trying to live a wonderful Christian life, naming it and claiming it, blabbing it and grabbing it, all the while suffering silently and too embarrassed to talk about it. I felt pretty on the outside at times, but led a very lonely, scared life behind closed doors. In my world, I was always the positive one, the one who would give good advice to people, the one who had the answers, but no one had the answers for me. I was the one my friends and family would call on when they had a problem. But when I had a problem, they told me, "You're the strong one. You can do it." Or, You will be okay, girl. Just keep praying, standing, and believing. The reality was that I was hurting, broken, and lonely. I felt downright abused by life. At times, if it wasn't for my faith in God, I don't know where I would be today. During this silent suffering, I used food to compensate for the deeply rooted pain I was feeling, which obviously led to a struggle with weight gain and low self esteem. Many of my friends would say today, I can't believe you had a problem with weight, or I don't believe that you suffered from low self esteem. Yes, I was yes, that was all on the outside. But just like the beautiful chocolate Easter bunny, I was hollow on the inside. I was constantly putting myself last in order to put others first. I had always been a caregiver. I took care of my mother without the help of my siblings, took care of my kids without the help of my husband. And let's not forget how a wife needs to take care of her husband. I was the caregiver who helped everyone spiritually, emotionally, mentally, and at times financially. Even at my current job at that time, I was a caregiver. But who cares for the caregiver? I had become the president of the Need to Please Club, and my duties left me feeling empty and broken. It was as if someone had hung an outer order sign on my neck, pushed me in the corner, and neglected to call the service technician to come fix me. I had nothing left to give. As a caregiver, you are constantly giving of yourself, your time, your energy, your love, and your peace of mind. It is easy to become hollow when you are constantly emptying yourself to fill others. If you don't take care to fulfill yourself, you will eventually crumble. I wanted desperately to feel myself once I recognized that hollow feeling, only I made the mistake of filling myself with all the wrong things. One day I looked in a mirror and saw a strange, overweight woman staring back at me. But what shocked me the most was fear and anger and grief in her eyes. I was more than 50 pounds overweight and had allowed worry, bad habits, and loneliness to grow bigger than the good inside of me. Clearly, my actions were merely reactions to the events taking place in my life. According to the Kubler-Ross model of grief, I had to conquer the phases of denial, anger, bargaining, and depression. Only then would I get to a place of acceptance where I could experience balance and a healthy state of being, a place of solace, realization, and healing. It would prove to be a long, difficult journey for me. I quickly encountered obstacles that made it a struggle to move beyond the questions. Are these tragic events even happening to me? And began coping with the anger that demanded answers to other questions like, why me? Or how is it possible for such a string of tragedies to happen to one person? And of course, there was the universal complaint. It just ain't fair. In order to reach my destination of balance and fulfillment without getting completely lost on this demanding journey, I relied upon my emotional GPS to guide me on the path towards restoration, revelation, understanding, and emotional rehabilitation. Throughout my life, I felt that I had a special purpose or a calling. Unfortunately, as a result of the events I endured and my defective coping skills, I discovered that I no longer liked the life I was living. My zest for the things that had once meant so much to me, oh my God, I'm getting emotional, had faded. A person without dreams will soon perish. I fought to find my dreams again and therefore to live. I decided to write this book one day after encouraging people to look beyond the surface of what they're going through to identify the habits that got them there. I wrote this book for all those who are hollow, and looking to be fulfilled. I wrote this book for you. Hollow is written in two parts. Part one, the hollowing, which takes you on the journey of my life before, after 50, and my spiritual death as a result of low self-esteem, depression, and my abuse of food, drugs, and alcohol. Part two is the filling. It takes you through my life approaching 50, my rebirth as a result of my of strength and knowledge and determination that only comes from God. Ladies and gentlemen, that is the introduction of Hollow, when everything that means anything is taken away. Again, I was getting emotional a little bit because I'm going to say this like this. I don't look like what I've been through. And I'm going to let that breathe for a second. And some of you are out here today that have been through some things, and you don't look like what you've been through because of the grace and the goodness of God. I don't look like who and what I've been through, what has happened to me. I don't look that way because God has blessed me. God has brought me through so many amazing things. When I think about the fact that I really shouldn't be here, I had thoughts of suicide, not once, but twice. That's right. I just didn't want to live anymore. I just felt like, why? 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 Everybody and everything that means anything to me is gone. My mother left me power of attorney of my mentally ill sister. And my sister went to have knee surgery, and she lived in Pennsylvania. At that time, I was living in Florida. And I went to Pennsylvania to be there for her when she had surgery. And I got there on a Monday when she had surgery, and I identified her body on Thursday at the Undertaker. If you had asked me on Monday if I was going to be removing my sister from life support on Thursday, I would be telling you, girl, go somewhere and sit down. Boy, sit down somewhere. But it happened. I watched her flatline. And you want to talk about the voices in your head? My sister didn't want to have the knee surgery, but because I was power of attorney, she had severe arthritis. And I just wanted her to get a knee replacement. I just wanted her to feel better. That's all. Her doctors and I had talked. We just wanted her to feel better. But she contracted toxic shock syndrome, sepsis, in the hospital. And one day she was talking in the bed, and I went to my hotel, and I came back the next day, and she was in ICU, strapped down, intubated, and, they're telling me she took a turn for the worse. And it was up to me to sign to have her removed from life support. That haunted me for a long time, because I thought, if I had only not gotten her the knee surgery, would she still be alive? I signed for the knee surgery. I talked her into having the knee surgery. But let me just say this to you. The enemy will give you guilt and condemnation. The enemy will make you feel like crap. The enemy will make you feel like you did something wrong. And I didn't do anything wrong, but I carried that for a long time, which resulted in me falling in a dark, dark, deep depression, because I felt like I was responsible for the death of my sister. And then I was responsible for removing her from life support. And I'm going to say this to you. We watch on television people all the time, they're having simulations of, flatlining. When you have to watch a family member flatline in front of you, it changes how you see life. When you see a person draw their last breath, it will change how you see life. I fell into a dark, dark, deep, deep depression. And I really went dark. I lived in Florida. I had a pool. And I sat outside by my pool one day and just said, you know what? That's it. I'm done. And I just could just jump in this pool and tie a rock to my ankle. And I can jump into the 6 feet, and I'll just drown. I'll just drown myself. But you know what? Let me just tell you something. That day, I'm so grateful that the thoughts that were in my head did not win. I'm grateful to God because I wouldn't be here sharing this story with you now. And when I think about the goodness of God and what He's done and how He's brought me through, all I can just say thank you, because I didn't want my son to come home from school and see me swimming or drowned in a pool because I just couldn't take it anymore. When I say I don't look like what I've been through, I don't look like what I've been through. Oh, but for the grace of God. Oh, but for the grace of God. You know, suicide is a person who contemplates suicide, and I did it twice. I'm sorry, I'm getting emotional, but I did it twice. I thought twice about committing suicide. And this is hard for me because I'm just being open. I'm gonna speak out loud about my own story behind the brand. But when a person thinks about suicide, they don't really want to die. They just want the pain to stop. They just want the pain to stop. And I just wanted the pain in my life to stop. For 18 months, I just suffered from pain and I just wanted to stop. I wanted a break. I wanted to feel worthy. I wanted to feel love, and I just didn't feel like I was receiving that. And so when a person thinks about suicide, it's just a transfer of pain. You see, because they're going to be out of the pain, but the pain that they're going to transfer is to the loved ones. So no one really wants to commit suicide. They just want to transfer, they want the pain to stop. And so suicide doesn't stop the pain, it transfers to the pain. It transfers the pain to those that you leave behind. And so I had to think about, oh my God, I'm leaving two sons behind, and I don't want to transfer that pain to them. And so I fought to live. I fought to live. The second part of the book takes you through all the things that I did to change the game, to rewrite the story, to put life back in me with the help of God. And I just want to share that today with anybody out here today that feels like you are hopeless, that you are in pain. Did you just want the pain to stop? That you can't do anything, that no one likes you. I felt all of those things. And it's an empty feeling when you are all alone and you feel like no one understands you. I just want you to know there is hope. There's hope. There is hope for you. You don't have to suffer in silence any longer. I thank God that we are speaking out. You know, those of us in the Black and Brown community, we feel sometimes that depression and anxiety, and I'm going to be real honest and just put it out there. We feel that depression and anxiety is a white person's thing. You know, Black people don't get depressed. Only white people get depressed. White people go to therapy. Let me just tell you something. That's a big lie. That is a huge, huge lie. Just in our community, we don't talk about it. We don't talk about it. You know what? We try to pray it away. It can't be prayed away. Now, yes, prayer works, but you got to do the work as well. We want to just, we think that, okay, I can just say a prayer and that's it. But when we are out here every day going to our doctors and checking our heart and getting a mammogram and doing all that stuff, we don't try to pray away those things. We don't try to pray those things away. We need a checkup from the neck up. And I got one. I got a checkup from the neck up. I went to therapy. And I'm going to break the myth that some of us have. Oh, well, you know, I'm a Christian and The therapist can't, they want to just tell me a bunch of stuff. And no, my therapist was a Christian who prayed with me, who helped me. And one of the biggest things he said to me is that you got to stop allowing people to rent and take up space in your head. Because I was a person who was just, I was a pleaser. I didn't have my own life. That was huge for me. And I just couldn't understand that I could say no. And as a result, I gave everything out of myself and didn't put anything back. Now, the things that I tried to fill myself up with was food. I was a great cook. And so I cooked everything that wasn't walking around. I could cook and I could eat. I also tried to drink the pain away. Yep. Alcohol, abused it bad, really, really, really bad. Matter of fact, it was the only way that I could sleep sometimes. I was very sleep deprived. It was the only way that I could sleep at times. But alcohol is not going to allow you to sleep at night solidly. You're going to go to sleep and then you're going to wake back up because it's not designed for that. But I was addicted to prescription painkillers. Percocet. Yep. I was addicted to Percocet. And I remember being on a talk show, someone interviewed me and they said, "How did you know you had a problem?" I said, "When everything was gone, when there was no more drugs left, that's when I knew I had a problem." So I used alcohol to try to give me the same feelings. Those are some of the things that I tried to fill myself up with. I tried to fill myself up with wrong relationships. You know, I always say that I was really good at being a dumpster diver. And that means simply, you can put people out of your life, but when you get lonely, you go back in the dumpster and you take them back out of the dumpster and you bring them back into your life. And then you try to figure out why you are living with dis-ease. Dis-ease, because you've brought that person back in your life and they should have stayed in the dumpster. And so, I had such low self-esteem and it was difficult for me to even think right. I was so dark. But I'm just here to tell you today that there is hope. I want to just read a couple of there's some praise for the book that was done. And I just want to read just what people have said about this book because it will help you understand that you don't have to suffer in silence any longer. This book is a brilliant account of a real woman's struggle to fight through death, depression, anger, and abuse, and still take control of her destiny. Thank you, Lynette, for showing us how to live. Julian Lark, Editor-in-Chief, Control Magazine. Truly an inspirational book by one of God's great and humble servants. Lynette shows us how to fight for and through life with God on your side. A must read for anyone struggling with the pain of addiction. Dan Darling, Chief Information Officer, Turner Broadcasting Systems. Lynette takes us on her real, transparent, life-changing journey. Her heartfelt words, struggles, fears, and ultimate triumph encourages us all to never give up, cave in, or quit. Jennifer Kitt, Chief Empowerment Officer, Today's Black Women's Radio, KISS 104.1. I stand in awe of Lynette's honesty, determination, courage, and wisdom through her journey in Hollow. In this book, she shows us that we don't always get to choose what happens to us in life, but we can choose how we deal with life's challenges. Everything we need is on the inside of us. And Lynette shows us that with God on our side, nothing is impossible. Many themes run through this story. One such theme is the power of God's love in the thick of crisis and loss. Hollow is a compassionate spiritual offering that candidly shares the power of God's redemptive love. It will make you cry. It will have you laughing. By the end of the read, you will want to live and love again. Thank you, Lynette, for your transparency and willingness to share Hollow with us. Dr. Hart Ramsey, Senior Pastor of Northview Christian Church, Dothan, Alabama. These were just a few of the people who just gave praise for this book. This was a very difficult book for me to write. It was difficult because I didn't want people to know my secret. And as I mentioned, I raised my two sons behind a mask. I was always masquerading. And so now I had to show myself and show the truth. And I didn't want my bosses. I didn't want my grandchildren that would come to know that I struggled. But here's the deal. God puts us on this earth when we're not here for ourselves. We're here to be a blessing. And on the other side of my obedience to write this book and to share my story and to tell my story is someone else's deliverance. And I have traveled the globe talking about this book back in 2011, 2012, 2013. I've gone all the way to Thailand and I've spoke about this book on platforms there. And I kind of put the book aside. And it wasn't until I interviewed my guest last week, Mr. Abraham Scully, who talked about the importance of telling a story. And I said, you know what, Abraham, you're right. I need to share with the Speak Out Loud audience. I need to share with them the story behind my brand, why I am here, and why I have the passion that I have and the compassion for those who are suffering from depression and anxiety and mental health. It was in my family. My sister was misdiagnosed for years. She had paranoid schizophrenia, but she was beaten. She was abused. She was thrown in and out of institutions because she was misdiagnosed. And when I took her off life support, she was only 52 years old. Very, very short life, but a very horrible, tragic life, just because we in the Black and brown community and in church, my parents didn't even understand what was going on with her. They were told she was just a bad child and why can't she be good? And even as the youngest growing up, I would think, why can't she just be like everybody else? I just didn't understand it. We were just so misinformed and we don't talk about it. You know, back in the day when there was any sort of mental challenges in your family, you know, you keep that person away from everyone else. You guys can recall Soul Food, that movie Soul Food, Uncle Pete. You never really saw Uncle Pete that much because they kept Uncle Pete locked up in a room. Well, that's how we do. And that's how we did with people in our family who suffer from mental illness and mental challenges. I'm here to let you know that you can survive it. There is help. I partner with Telehelp 24/7. They are a culturally competent mental health care company meeting you where you are. And they are sponsoring this podcast for the whole month of May. I'm excited to be a part of what they're doing. I'm really excited to be their spokesperson for the faith-based community, because we need to know that you need to watch and pray. We need to educate our pastors, because here's the thing. The first place that a family is going to bring that person that is having a challenge is to the church. And if the church is not prepared, if the counselors and the pastors don't understand how to diagnose, or even, and that's a wrong word, diagnose, because they don't have the authority or even the education, but to know the signs and the symptoms of a person who is suffering from bipolar disorder, or a person who may be offered their medication. And that has happened. I've seen that happen a few times. We have to educate our churches. We have to educate our community leaders to not always want to use force or throw a person out of the church or mishandle a person because that person may not be acting the way that they usually are acting. That's a sign right there. We need to listen more. My guest last week, Abraham Scully, said, just listen. Just listen. But there are a few things that I want to share with you that may possibly be a challenge with how we are so hard on ourselves. I was extremely hard on myself. And I'll tell you this right now, even as a business owner, you can't beat me hard and I can beat myself. And if you can't harm me worse than I can harm myself. I'm very hard on me. But I had to learn in order to keep myself in good mental health is to keep my eyes on God. Keep my eyes on God. So the question that I have for you is, who are you watching? Who are you comparing yourself with? Are you out here on social media saying this person is, they're here and I want to be there? Be where God has called you to be. Don't try to measure yourself and your success to someone else. It's not going to work. Be who you're supposed to be. So I want to share a few things with you. Most people don't feel like they understand what depression is like. Depression is like ebbs and flows, right? The sun comes up and it doesn't go down. That's a problem. If the sun goes down and never goes up, comes back up, that's a problem. And that's how I began to realize and understand, because I didn't even know that I was depressed. I just thought I was like really, really sad. But for me, the sun went down and never went back up. It never rose. And it was dark. And it stayed dark. And I couldn't get out of bed. And I drank. And I tried to do all the things to numb the pain. It was pain in that darkness. And that's when I knew I had a problem. And I needed to go talk to someone. And I thank God for my therapist. I thank God that I went to therapy. Sometimes people say depression is a sign of weakness. No, going to see therapy is a sign of strength. That's a sign of strength. A lot of times we don't know how to approach a person that may be suffering from depression. So just listen to them. Don't judge them. Don't judge them. Just say things like, tell me more. I'm going to also say that there are lies that are passed down from generation to generation about depression. Oh, we don't talk about that. Oh, no, it's a spirit. Those are lies. And we keep passing down lie after lie after lie about what depression is and what depression isn't. If you're feeling depressed, if you're feeling anxious, if you need some help, please see someone. Telehelp 24/7 is available. Talk to a family member. Talk to a friend. And if someone comes to you, just listen. Don't judge them. Don't judge them. Let me just see. I have a couple of things here that I wanted to share with you. Be careful of the thoughts. Be careful of the thoughts that don't line up with what God has placed on your life or what the Word of God says. The Bible tells us to take no thought, or cast down every thought that exalts itself over the knowledge of God. Do not allow these thoughts to lie to you, because these thoughts will lie. Those thoughts lied to me. They told me, I wasn't worthy. They told me that I wasn't good enough. And they also told me to kill myself. Those thoughts told me to kill myself. So don't take any of those thoughts. Put yourself in a position where you can be a blessing to other people and get some help if you need some help. I want to just really talk real quick before we end today is what self-care looks like. So we need to really practice good self-care. And so self-care is taking a step back from everything to catch your breath. Yeah. Sometimes you got to step back and catch your breath. Step back and say, you know what? This is too much. I need to step back. That's self-care. Asking for help when you need it. I've got some notes here. Asking for help when you need it. That's self-care. Spending some time alone, away from the noise of life. So much noise going on in life. We turn on the news, there's a bunch of noise, there's killings, and there's all sorts of things happening there. That's not good for you if you're going through something or you're battling some things within your own life. So turn off the news, turn off the noise. Turn off the noise from people who are not bringing life into you, gossipers, backbiters, those kind of folks. That's not good for you. The ones that want to come and spill the tea with you, let them spill the tea somewhere else. Don't let them spill the tea with you. You've got to focus on your mental health and your mental wellness. It's work. It's work. I had to focus on putting and giving myself good self-care, and that takes work. Exercising, it takes work. Putting yourself back on your own list. That was something that the president of CNN told me one time. He said, "You're off the list." And I said, "Sir, I'm sorry. I don't understand what you're saying." He said, "You're off the list. I can see it." And I said, "I don't understand." He goes, "You're off your life list." And I was like, wow. He says, "Not only should you be on your own list, you should be at the top of the list." His name was Jim Walton. He was the president of CNN. And I tell you, I'm grateful that he walked up and he saw that in me, because I was just going around thinking that I was okay. And he said, "Nope, something's wrong. You're not on the list. You need to get back on your list." So I want to say this to anybody today. Get on your list. Like Mr. Walton told me. Ask for help when you need it. This is a big one. Set boundaries in your life. Oh my God. I did not have any boundaries in my life at all. I let people say, do, and say anything they wanted to do and to say to me. And I would just try to please everyone. I was that people pleaser. And I let people cross boundaries in my life. You cannot allow them to cross these boundaries in your life. Set boundaries. Say no. No. Let's all say it together. No. No could be like, no, that's not going to happen today. Or no could be, that's a no for me today. No. Say no. Learn to say no. And don't let anybody pressure you into doing anything that you don't want to do. If you don't want to do it, don't do it. So just say no. Forgive yourself. Yeah. Forgive yourself. I had to learn to forgive myself. I had to say, you know what, Lynette? I had to look in the mirror and say, I forgive you. I love you. You are amazing. You are great. You're going to fulfill the call of God on your life. Forgive yourself. Don't be so hard on yourself. Because like I said, you can't be harder on me than I can be on myself. And I had to learn to say, you know what? You're being too hard on yourself. Ease up, lighten up, forgive yourself and forgive others. When you don't forgive others, it's like putting your foot on their neck. But if you notice, they're not going anywhere and you're not going anywhere. So forgiveness is for you. You might think, I can't forgive that person for what they did to me or what they said. But when you don't, you're holding them down and you're not going anywhere as well. I want to also just share 4 quick things about the myths of self-care. These are myths. So they ain't true. They lies. So let's just tell the truth, and we're going to tell the truth. Self-care is indulgence. It is not. And you know what? I was guilty of that. I didn't want to do anything for me. I felt like maybe I'm indulging too much in things that, no. Take care of yourself. Get up. Take a break. Take a walk. What I do is I swim 3 days a week. I get up from my desk. I work for myself, and I go to the aquatic center and I swim. I swim 3 days a week. I go to the gym. It's time to put love back in your own life. So it's not indulgence. Self-care is not selfish. It's not. It is not. Even though the word says self-care, people say, well, you just thinking about yourself. Well, if I don't think about me, who's going to think about me? If I don't take care of me, who's going to take care of me? If you don't take care of you, who's going to take care of you? So it is not selfish. Self-care is a one-time experience. No, I know a lady that I'm hanging out on Clubhouse with. Her name is Christine Psalms. And I'm going to tell you, Christine, every Monday, she calls it Me Day. She takes Mondays off for herself. And she does things like whatever she wants to do, get her nail done, hair done, whatever. If she doesn't want to do anything but read a book, if she doesn't want to do nothing but stay in the bed, it's her day. And I'm like, I need to learn to have a day. Some of us need to learn to have a half a day. Some of us need to learn to have an hour. Some of us need to learn to give ourselves 5 minutes. And self-care is time consuming. It is not. It is good for your soul. It is good for your mind. And it is good for your body. Well, guys, that's all that I have for today. This has been something I didn't think I would ever be interviewing myself or having myself on the show by myself. But I'm glad that I was able to do it. And I hope and pray that something that I said could help someone out there. As I mentioned to God, it's like, hey, if one person's life gets changed, then I did my job. And so my prayer today is that if one person out here who was listening, if their life was changed, if they got anything from this, then I did my job today. All right, guys, it's been so awesome. Thank you again for supporting me on this podcast. This is Speak Out Loud, the story behind the brand. And before we go, I just want to let you know that God loves you. I love you. But most importantly, learn to love yourself. Bye for now.
You've been watching Speak Out Loud, the story behind the brand with your host, Lynette Jackson. Please like, share, and subscribe to this podcast. And until next week, don't forget to use your voice to speak out loud.